If this is real, nothing in space is what we think it is. Stay with me and subscribe before we begin, because what just happened near Mars is only the beginning. Something outran the stars over Mars. A thin, silent streak crossed the red night at 60 kilometers a second, sharp as a blade of light, for a few seconds. Perseverance caught it 3, maybe 4 frames. Then the rover's night cameras went dark, like an eye that blinked and refused to open. The desert stayed quiet. The sky did not. The timing felt wrong from the first minute. Mars orbiters that always talk started to whisper, then stopped. Raw feeds that usually pouring like rain turned into a dry channel. No calibration files. No casual test shots. Only careful notes about verification. The sort of language you use when you're not ready to say what you saw. An amateur astronomer named Stephen Burns did what people always do when the big doors close. He opened a small one. He pulled public frames from the rover's archive and stitched a 9-minute time lapse. On first play, it looked normal. Stars like sugar, Mars like rust. On the second pass, a hair-thin line cut the sky. On the third pass, you notice the flash-faint green right above the horizon stamped at 0 hours and 3 seconds UTC, like a secret left in a corner. It was too clean for noise, too exact for chance. Arguments began before sunrise. Cosmic ray, someone posted. Compression glitch, someone else said. Look at the star lines, a third voice wrote, zooming in until the pixels looked like bricks. But the same odd mark kept pulling everyone back. That green spark, quick and precise, where the path of 3-eye Atlas should have been during closest approach. If it was a comet, it didn't act like one. If it was a rock, it was the strangest rock anyone had ever met. Inside the quiet rooms at JPL, people leaned over screens under white lights. A tech with tired eyes drew a tiny box around one bright point. Flag that, she murmured. Could be a hit. A second voice. Lower. We've flagged 100. Keep going. They checked every hot pixel, every false jet that bad math can invent. Because when something moves that fast, a single lazy assumption can turn a shadow into a story. What turned up in the cleaned frames wasn't a story. It was a shape. Not one body, but several, faint and neat, trailing the main source like patient birds in a tight V. No wobble, no drift. The spacing held. Debris, one engineer said, not sounding sure. Probes, someone else whispered, and then didn't say anything for a long while. James Webb waited at L2 with its mirror open like a gold ear. When the object slipped out of Mars's shadow, Webb listened in heat instead of light. The first spectra arrived soft and strange. The usual green stain of comets, dicarbon glowing like neon, was missing. In its place, strong carbon dioxide, a clean line for nickel that ran louder than iron, and a bite of cyanogen where it didn't belong. Nickel shouldn't dominate like that. Nickel shouldn't be vapor at those distances. But there it was, bright and stubborn, as if something metallic was being heated on purpose. A quiet voice on a call said, "That can't be right." another replied. Then it isn't a comet. No one laughed. Mars Express and the Trace Gas Orbiter added a piece that broke old models in half. They recorded a narrow jet firing toward the sun, not away from it. Dust doesn't blow uphill in space. Outgassing doesn't aim forward like a nozzle. Yet the jet held a tight column and a steep brightness that said control more than melt. Worse, while the jet drew a white thread through the dark, the track of 3I Atlas did not budge. The path stayed pure, like a chalk line pulled tight across a floor. If the object was pushing, it didn't flinch. If it was shedding mass, it didn't care. Back of envelope math gave it the weight of a small mountain 10 billion tons or more, heavy enough to shrug off anything we were used to seeing. Night folded over Mars again. Antennas on Earth kept their faces up. Somewhere in the low static, a tiny spike rose and fell like a calm breath. Engineers stared at waterfall plots and frowned. "Do you hear that?" one asked. "Every 22 seconds?" The spike was too weak to be a proper signal. It was too regular to be weather. It walked from one dish to another, from one network to the next, as if the same soft finger was tapping on miles of wire in a steady loop. Resonance. Someone labeled it for the log. But when a tech filtered the noise and played it back on a speaker the size of a hand, the room changed. It wasn't a tone. It was a feeling, a low mechanical thrum that made the ribs remember they were cages. Webb turned again. The heat map no longer showed one object. It showed three. A long hot core where the main body should be, and two cooler points holding equal distance on either side. They didn't drift like scraps. They corrected tiny nudges that matched shifts in Mars's magnetic field. When scientists built a color composite, faint threads appeared, filaments connecting the trio flickering in the same beat as the 22-second hum. Not thrust, not a push. A frame holding the shape of a triangle around an empty middle. Metal spoke louder in the next pass. Nickel again, firm as a bell. A whisper of cobalt, and a new ladder of razor-thin lines stacked too evenly to be the sloppy work of geology. They looked like harmonics, like something being heated and sorted, then heated again, as if the surface were reorganizing while it crossed the cold between worlds. The brightness of 3I Atlas began to blink with a rhythm. Webb's light curve and the deep space networks, low hum matched like teeth in a gear. The two flanking points leaned outward, slow as drifting leaves, then slid into the ecliptic, the plane where planets do their long, patient circles. For hours, they formed a straight line pinned between Mars, the Sun, and the object's path. The alignment looked like a coincidence until you counted the beats. Every time they settled, the rhythm held clean and exact. Then, solar noise rose and the stream cut. Screens went dark. Chairs creaked. No one left the room. A day later, the signal came back like someone had wiped dust off a lens. The infrared signature sharpened. The brightness curve broke away from the simple math of reflected light and began to act like something else, gain, maybe, like an amplifier waking up. Nico kept singing, but new lines joined in, narrow and evenly spaced like the strings of a small harp pulled tight. The old 22-second beat returned, and under it a second pulse rode, shorter and oddly familiar. When a tired graduate student overlapped it with the patterns of Earth's own transmissions, the radio and TV and pings we've bled into the dark for a century, the room went quiet in a new way. "It's us," she said, not proud. "It's feeding us back to ourselves." Observatories tuned to the hydrogen line at 1,420 megahertz, the same band, where a strange burst once shouted in 1977 and found the steps of the same slow dance, a spiral, simple and exact, which matched the way 3i Atlas had swung past Mars. The object wasn't shouting out into the void. It wasn't asking a stranger to listen. It was recording where it had been and playing it back to the only ones who would understand the map. Back on Earth, small things began to misbehave. Not broken, a line. A lab clock that swore it was the best in the world drifted a hair, hesitated, then fell into step with the 22, then 23, then 24-second rhythm. As the beat slowed like the object was adjusting to our time as gently as a hand on a shoulder. High-altitude cameras saw faint green sheets slide over places that never were auroras, desert, jungle, city edge, each sweep lasting just long enough to wonder if you imagined it. Air traffic towers heard a soft click in their headsets every time the light brushed past. Satellite links hiccuped and recovered in perfect sync with a clock no one owned. "You're telling me that's from space?" a controller asked over an open line. "I'm telling you it isn't from here," came the answer. Through all of it, the pacing of the story never felt rushed. It crept, it breathed, it let you think in the gaps. Webb's polarization sensors added another slow brick to the wall of strange. The light from 3i Atlas wasn't scattering the way sunlight should. It was staying coherent, as if it was being guided along a lattice we couldn't see. The beam rotated at fixed intervals that matched Mars's day and Earth's slower drift. A triangle began to take shape, not on paper but in the field itself, with threads of charged particles running like rivers between 3 points we knew too well: Mars, Earth, and the thing we were still trying to call a comet without lying to ourselves. A young analyst in a windowless room pressed her palms flat on her desk and closed her eyes. "If it's drawing lines," she said softly, "what's at the corners?" No one answered. The hum rolled on. "Say we answer it," a senior engineer said to a room that smelled like coffee and lightning. "Say we build the cleanest reply we can. Not words, timing, harmony. We send our map back. What do we expect to happen?" "We don't expect," someone else replied. "We observe." Outside, the world did what it always does when the sky changes. Some people prayed, some mocked. Some went outside and stood in their yards and listened for something they couldn't name. Most heard nothing. A few heard the low repeat every 24 seconds and felt their heartbeat ease into step with it, whether they wanted it to or not. This is the part where the old rules begin to feel thin. The rover on Mars blinked open again under a pale dawn and stared at an empty patch of sky that felt less like nothing and more like a hole cut out of the day. The orbiters kept their distance and their quiet. On Earth, deep-sea cables began to hum in the same slow pulse. Not louder, just there, a presence in the wire. Power grids breathed with a beat and did not fail. GPS clocks that hate to agree with anyone slid into time with everything else. Somewhere in the hiss of the hydrogen line, a faint drawing kept being drawn. 3 points, 3 lines, 1 triangle that should have been only geometry and felt like intention. The old wild direction from long ago brushed against the new map by less than a degree. The odds were ugly. The feeling in the room when the overlay clicked was uglier. You don't get that close without either a trick or a plan. A scientist with a rough voice and a soft heart spoke to no one in particular. "We're not ready," he said, "but I don't think it cares." What happened next would bend the line from calm into danger, but not yet. For now, the world listened. For now, the story held its breath and let the beat lay down a path. Every 24 seconds. A pulse you could time your life to if you wanted. A clock you didn't set, ticking inside the planet we thought we understood. And somewhere far past the edge of simple explanations, 3i Atlas moved in a way that didn't show up as speed or thrust or glare. It moved like a choice. The shift was small at first, so small it almost slipped past unnoticed. A tiny deviation in trajectory, less than a whisper against the silence of space. 3i Atlas adjusted its path not by accident, not from gravity, but by decision. It curved just slightly, angling itself toward the orbital plane of Earth. Any comet pulled by the sun would follow a falling path outward, free from influence. But this moved like it was choosing. Data analysts stared at the numbers for hours, refusing to accept them until the patterns held steady. A deviation under 0.01%, insignificant to anyone but the people who understand how space behaves. And nothing in space behaves like this unless something is flying it. People hate that idea. They'll hold on to the comfort of natural causes until their nails break. Because once you accept intention behind an unknown object, you've accepted possibility. And possibility is terrifying. Inside an ESA monitoring room in Germany, a man took off his glasses and wiped his eyes before whispering, "It saw us." No one corrected him. The pulse changed to 22 seconds during the Mars flyby, 23 as it adjusted, and now slowing to 24. On every cycle, it locked tighter to Earth's time, syncing not just with our world, but with us. Radios could hear it. Seismic sensors could feel it. Even magnetometers buried in quiet vaults under mountains registered the beat. It moved through the planet like a second heartbeat. "What if this is a scan?" someone asked during a late-night emergency call between NASA, ESA, and JAXA. No one scoffed. No one laughed. The world had grown quiet around the question. The green auroras that appeared over deserts and oceans grew brighter. Cameras caught them. People posted them. Nobody could deny them. But the green wasn't light from our atmosphere. It was projected, layered onto the sky by a beam from 3I Atlas that was now aimed directly at Earth. It wasn't random. It was controlled. It was searching. Some called it communication. Some called it targeting. Others feared it was an alignment, because over time, a pattern began to show. Every night, at the exact same rotational period, the aurora beams returned to the same regions stationary, watching, measuring. If something was plotting Earth, step by step, this is what it would look like. And then came the cables. It started in the deep Pacific, on fiber lines that carry almost all the world's data traffic. Engineers noticed faint electromagnetic fluctuations across deep-sea cables, energy pulsing in perfect time with the same slow rhythm from space. Underwater repeaters hummed, even when isolated from the grid. That shouldn't have been possible. The energy wasn't being transmitted through the cables, it was waking inside them. "We've got interference," one engineer said while watching diagnostic graphs looping his dimly lit control room. "That's not interference," his partner murmured. "That's sync." Power grids joined the rhythm next. Smart meters and transformers clicked as if echoing a silent drum. Buildings flickered in perfect unison across entire cities, not random brownouts, but pulsed harmonics. The effect reached underground data vaults, insulated by concrete and steel, designed to resist solar storms or EMP blasts. The hum reached them anyway. The world was turning into a receiver. Then it reached people. Doctors in Toronto measured strange synchronized fluctuations in EEG readings, brainwave shifts that appeared at regular 24-second intervals in test subjects. No one reported pain, just momentary stillness, a pause, as if the mind stopped listening to thoughts and listened to something else for a fraction of a second. People began reporting a strange feeling like a low vibration, not heard, but felt, somewhere inside the chest. Some described it as a presence. Some felt anxious. A few felt calm. But all of them used the same strange word, connected. One scientist said something that no one wanted to hear. "What if it's not sending a signal anymore?" he asked. "What if it's receiving?" That theory wouldn't survive on its own for long, not after what happened across the Sahara. At 2:14 UTC, a pilot flying over North Africa reported a thin vertical column of green light rising from the desert floor, then another, then dozens. The beams were silent, motionless, like glowing needles reaching toward space. They bent slightly angled, pointing all at once to one point in the sky, the current location of 3I Atlas. Satellites caught the beams. They originated nowhere. They left no scorch marks or energy signatures on the ground. They didn't begin on Earth. They ended here. Webb confirmed it first. The beams were descending, not rising. They weren't being sent from Earth, they were being received by Earth. Energy, if you could even call it, that was being drawn down, which meant only one thing. Whatever 3I Atlas was trying to awaken, it wasn't out there in space. It was here, buried in the planet beneath us. For the first time, nations began to panic in silence. Private calls shut down public research portals. Encrypted channels buried official data. Observatory feeds around the world suddenly went under maintenance. Not one statement admitted what everyone knew. The signal had moved from the sky into the ground. What are you? That was no longer the question. The new question was far worse. Why are you here? Something ancient had woken under our feet. The first proof came from Antarctica, where a seismic research team detected something buried deep beneath the ice, something that reflected radar like metal and geometry, not rock. The signal pulsed every 24 seconds, matching 3I Atlas exactly. At first, they thought it was a glitch. Then they found another one, and another. In Siberia, under the Pacific, beneath the sands of Egypt, a global pattern all synchronized to the same source in the sky. These weren't random structures. They were arranged in a lattice positions following orbital harmonics, magnetic nodes, and ley lines older than human civilization. Blueprints carved into the planet before we learned to speak. Satellites began detecting low-frequency resonance beneath the Earth's crust, like a hum rising from chambers hidden in the dark. It wasn't drilling. It wasn't tectonic activity. It was rhythmic, like something slowly powering up. One researcher described it perfectly during a classified briefing. It feels like the world is remembering something. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas continued its slow, deliberate turn toward Earth. The object, if you could still call it an object, had shifted its geometry. No longer just a glowing green traveler, it now appeared as a black sphere surrounded by a faint ring of ionized gas. Its surface absorbed nearly every wavelength, reflecting almost nothing. It became impossible to measure, as if it had stopped being physical, like it crossed a boundary into something we didn't yet have a name for. That was when James Webb caught something for one frame only that made no sense at all. Inside the darkness of the object, just before its instruments overloaded, Webb detected modulation data structure. Not static, not heat, data. And inside that data was something terrifying. Human transmissions. Not a few, not dozens, all of them. Decades of human broadcasts, our radio history, our engineering codes, our deep space pings compressed, folded, echoing back out of something not from Earth. Every message humanity ever sent into space had returned. But it wasn't just repeating us. It had rearranged us, built something out of our signals, a message inside a message. That's when the paleontologists entered the story. A small research team in Turkey found something strange while analyzing ancient carvings in Göbekli Tepe, possibly the oldest temple on Earth. They compared spiral engravings on megalithic pillars to recent orbital plots of 3I Atlas. Perfect match. The same spiral pattern, carved into stones 12,000 years ago, was now appearing in the sky. Coincidence? Impossible. Petroglyphs in Peru, stone circles in Scotland, pyramid shafts in Egypt, Mayan star maps, they all repeated the same geometry. Humanity had seen something like 3I Atlas before, long before history began. Maybe it wasn't a visitor. Maybe it was a return. When that idea spread through the scientific teams secretly collaborating across agencies, one question replaced all others. If something buried itself inside Earth long ago, why was it waking now? And then why was 3-Eye Atlas the thing that triggered the awakening slowing down? It should have slingshotted past the sun and vanished back into dark space. But it didn't. It curved. Its speed bled away. Its trajectory bent until it was no longer following a natural path. It was holding position, waiting for what? The lights that appeared next were called an atmospheric anomaly in official reports, but that lie didn't last long. Ground telescopes capture the truth. Thin, sweeping grids of green lines, barely visible except in low light, scanning the Earth's surface from orbit. It was a lattice, searching for something. Someone suggested it was looking for life. Someone else disagreed. It's not looking for life, they said. It already knows life is here. It's looking for a signal, a specific frequency. The hum wasn't just global anymore, it was tunneling. Seismic instruments detected waveforms traveling through the crust, echoing off hidden chambers. Something under us was responding. A message had been sent. A response was arriving. We were standing on the antenna. For the first time, global agencies broke. Hidden files leaked to the public. Amateur radio astronomers decrypted a low-energy code hidden inside the pulse. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't language. It was coordinates on Earth. The signal was pointing us toward something buried, something waiting to be found. And then, before anyone could reach it, something else woke up first. It began deep under the Pacific. A tremor was recorded, small, precise, too rhythmic to be tectonic. Underwater microphones from old Cold War listening networks picked up the sound first. It wasn't grinding like earthquakes. It wasn't volcanic. It was mechanical, layered, harmonic, alive, almost like gears turning after a very long time. Then came the glow, faint at first, like a bruise of light pressing upward beneath the water. A research submarine from a Japanese expedition saw it before anyone else. They were gathering sediment core samples when a silent pulse hit the hull, no shockwave, just pressure without cause. The pilot grabbed the controls. The co-pilot froze and stared out the viewport. "Do you see that?" she whispered. Below them, nearly 2 miles down, thin green lines traced across the ocean floor like veins lighting up after a heartbeat. Sand flowed off something huge, a shape slowly revealing itself, smooth, symmetrical, built. The pilot tried to ascend, but the sub wouldn't move. Not malfunctioning, held like gravity itself, had locked around them. A voice came through mission control. "Surface immediately." But they couldn't. That's when the object opened. They didn't see doors. They saw light bending, parting itself. And in the exposed space beneath the seafloor, they saw structures, rows of them stretching into darkness. A buried city. No older than a city. A network. Machinery. Something organized by hands or minds far beyond us. And then it disappeared. Not physically. Visually. Every camera, every sonar sweep, every instrument blind, whatever lay under the Pacific, cloaked itself as if it had never been there. The submarine surfaced hours later, and the crew swore they had only been below for 6 minutes. All of them reported the same strange sensation. Time moved differently down there. The world didn't get to process that before Antarctica erupted. not with fire, with geometry. A circular ice field over 40 miles wide, liquefied from below in a perfect ring. Satellite images showed a symbol forming in the melting ice, a spiral, the same tri-spiral that appeared on ancient stones across Ireland, Bosnia, Peru, Malta, and now in the sky, carved by the motion of three-eye atlas. This was no longer random events. This was activation. Three-eye atlas pulsed again, no longer just every 24 seconds. The pulse split and multiplied 24 seconds, 12 seconds, 6 seconds, 3 seconds, a countdown. But to what? And then everything on Earth that could receive electromagnetic energy, from ham radios to supermarket scanners, broadcasted the same 6 tones in perfect unison. The tones formed a repeating harmonic structure. Someone ran the tones through a spectrogram. It created a map, not a star map, a map of Earth's interior. The resonant points matched exactly with the buried anomalies detected around the globe. Peru, Antarctica, Mongolia, the Pacific, Sudan, Greenland. There were 12 in total, each equidistant in harmonic frequency, but differing in depth. They weren't random locations. They were anchor points. But anchored to what? A message appeared on an unauthorized deep space research board, rumored to be dropped by someone inside NASA. The message was simple. They aren't arriving. They were left behind. The signal is not coming to Earth. Earth is responding to itself. At first, nobody understood. Then everything began to make sense. Three-Eye Atlas didn't come here to invade, attack, or even communicate. It came here to wake something already here, something old, something buried, something waiting. Three-Eye Atlas wasn't sending instructions to Earth. It was turning Earth back on. But why? What was Earth before us? And what happens when it fully wakes up? Governments try to control the story, but the story was already inside every signal, every device, every quiet space between radio static. You couldn't silence a pulse that traveled through the Earth itself. The buried structures began resonating louder. Instruments detected harmonic overlap, meaning these locations weren't separate. They were connected, like nodes in a massive circuit hidden beneath continents and oceans. Teams were sent secretly to the anomaly sites, but secrecy didn't last. In Peru, villagers filmed a military convoy blocking off part of the Nazca Plateau. In Sudan, satellite photos showed temporary bases appearing in the desert overnight. In Mongolia, local herders captured footage of ground that glowed under moonlight symbols appearing in the soil before fading away like dust in wind. Three-Eye Atlas moved again. Not forward, not sideways. It rotated slowly, deliberately, and its rotation aligned those 12 buried sites perfectly with one single point in space. The center of the triangle, whatever was happening was not random. This was a sequence inside a private research core between NASA, ESA, and ISRO. A systems theorist from the Indian Institute of Science made a chilling statement. It's not a comet, it's not a machine, it's a key, and it just unlocked stage 1. No one spoke for a moment. Then another voice asked the question everyone avoided. What happens in stage 2? No one knew. But the world was about to find out. It started with magnetism. Earth's magnetic field didn't weaken, it bent. Instruments in Greenland showed the North Magnetic Pole drifting faster. Compass apps showed minor errors worldwide, auto-correcting every 24 seconds as if syncing to the hum. Migratory animals changed routes mid-flight. Whales breached where no whales should be. Something was rewriting the planet's internal navigation. Then came the earthquakes, but not normal ones. The quakes were not destructive, they were precise. Each tremor struck exactly one of the buried anomaly sites, but instead of damage, seismic scans showed clearing. Rock and sediment were being vibrated away, not by force from resonance, like sound shattering glass. These quakes were uncovering something. Earth wasn't being attacked. Earth was being excavated. Underground imaging revealed something even more unnerving: vast hollow chambers, perfectly shaped, untouched by time. Some spherical, some hexagonal, some geometric in ways nature doesn't build. These weren't caverns. They were constructed, and at the deepest point inside each one there was a structure, smooth, metallic, silent, waiting. The teams who entered the first chamber somewhere beneath the Pacific never released their footage, but one fragment leaked, a small clip recorded secretly on a body cam, blurry, shaky, but enough to see it. An enormous metallic arch, tall as a cathedral tower, covered in markings that weren't writing, but something like frequency, made physical patterns that seemed to pulse even though the arch didn't move. A quiet voice can be heard in the recording. "It's not from here, but it fits here." The camera turned. Another member of the team moved closer to the arch, not touching it, just near it. And his suit monitor lit up suddenly, heart rate, brain activity, oxygen levels all spiking at once. Then his audio cut in, just a whisper, shaky. "It hears something." Then the clip ends. No one could explain what happened in that chamber, but people noticed something else, something horrifying. After exposure to the arch, the man's neurological activity didn't return to normal. It synchronized. Every 24 seconds, his brain showed a harmonic spike identical to the planetary signal. He was no longer just alive. He was integrated. Someone posted the obvious question: if those 12 sites are nodes, what are they powering? And then someone else responded, not what, where. The hum from 3i Atlas wasn't scanning Earth. It was looking for a door. And someone, something beneath us just unlocked it. The moment the 11th site activated, everything changed. It happened in total silence, not a boom, not a flash, just a sudden shift, like reality itself had inhaled. Seismic instruments registered no shaking, but the Earth's mass reading changed by a measurable amount. Not a lot, but enough to terrify physicists. Our planet had gained mass from nowhere, or from somewhere. 3i Atlas pulsed again, but this time the signal didn't just travel through Earth, it bent around it. Radio telescopes in Chile measured something impossible. The signal wrapped space around the planet before reconnecting behind it, as if Earth were suddenly inside an unseen current. A gravitational lens formed where nothing should bend gravity. Astronomers checked their instruments, reset, recalibrated, but the readings stayed. It felt like Earth had been plugged into something bigger, something cosmic. The 11th site was discovered in the Sahara, buried beneath dunes older than recorded history. The sands spun outward in a slow spiral, like they were caught in the rotation of a clock no one could see. Beneath them was a circular stone structure, perfectly preserved, built with a precision that shouldn't exist in prehistory. Glyphs, smooth spirals, and deep harmonic lines wrapped the massive ring like a language spoken without sound. At its center stood a single stone spire, cracked but still standing. And whatever lay beneath it pulsed with a matching frequency. Another chamber, another dormant structure, but this one, unlike the others, had already been opened once. Inside, the walls were scarred, scorched. Something had been here before long ago and had left in a hurry, and on one of those walls, researchers found something no one expected to see. A human handprint, primitive, pressed into the stone, surrounded by spirals. This wasn't alien. This was ours. But how? No one had time to answer, because the 12th site hidden deeper than any the one no one could find opened itself. Every seismograph in the world shook at once, not violently, but sharply. Like a striking note, a pulse tore through the planet from below. Pressure spikes erupted across the mantle. Deep ocean hydrophones screamed with cascading harmonic resonance. And then something rose. In the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, ocean water pulled aside as if displaced by an invisible shape. Sonar readings went mad. A void appeared 7 miles down, perfectly spherical, expanding like a slow breath. Subsurface probes detected no rock, no gas, no volcanic plume. It was not a cavity, it was an object, one so large it had been mistaken for part of the planet itself, and it was powering up. 3i Atlas reacted immediately, its pulse synced to the rising harmonic from the trench. The two signals merged, one from the sky, one from the deep, and Earth's magnetic field locked into a triple resonance pattern. 3 frequencies, 3 origins, all aligned with one another. Someone on a private ESA call said it out loud. It's a network. Of what? Someone asked. Memory, he answered. It made too much sense. 3i Atlas didn't come here for conquest. It didn't come to communicate. It came to reconnect, to reassemble something broken, something that used to exist across space. A network of worlds. Earth hadn't been alone. It belonged to something once, something vast, something ancient, and it was calling us back. But that raised a question that froze everyone who understood what was happening. If Earth once belonged to something, why did it stop? Why was the system shut down? What happened to the others? Hours after the 12th site activated, the world changed quietly, like a tide turning in the dark. The pulse once every 24 seconds sped up again. 24 seconds. 12 seconds. 6 seconds. 3 seconds. 1.5 seconds, and it didn't stop. It wasn't random, it was exponential. A countdown accelerating towards something unseen, something final. The strange electromagnetic veil surrounding 3i Atlas collapsed. The glow was gone. The trails were gone. And what remained behind was no longer comet-like, no longer rock or ice, no longer pretending. It was a sphere, a perfect black sphere, with a faint ring circling its equator like a silent event horizon. Its surface didn't reflect starlight. It devoured it. Astrophysicists panicked not because of how it looked, but because of what it did next. It stabilized. Zero drift, zero spin, zero error. No object in space does that not naturally. Gravity never grants stillness. But this did. It held position just outside Earth's orbital plane like a fixed point in space. It was no longer traveling. It had arrived. NASA sent a secure probe, Athena 7, to silently approach 3I Atlas and scan from close range. No one expected to hear from it again. But it transmitted anyway. Not images first, data compressions. The good kind. Structured. Clean. Then everyone felt sick at the same time when the live telemetry fed back across mission control. It wasn't broadcasting images of 3I Atlas. It was broadcasting symbols. Not alien glyphs, not nonsense lines, but identical matches to carvings found in ancient human sites. Gobekli Tepe, Nabta Playa, the Maltese spirals, Newgrange, Chaco Canyon, Easter Island. Same curvature ratios, same embedded harmonic spacing, same triangle geometry hidden inside. Humanity had seen this object before. We carved it into stone. We remembered it. We just forgot what it meant. Athena 7 got closer. High-resolution scans passed through the object, not bouncing off, passing through. There was no interior mass, no heat, no matter. It was hollow, yet not empty. Something existed inside it that instruments could not define. That was when the sphere answered, not with sound, not with light, with gravity. Athena 7 vanished. Not destroyed, relocated. In a single frame, it was 8 kilometers from 3I Atlas. In the next frame, it was gone. Telemetry cut. No debris, no trajectory, no trace. It was removed from space. 3I Atlas was not just a machine. It was a gate. At that exact moment, something deep beneath Earth responded. All 12 buried side chambers activated simultaneously. They opened. Every seismic station in the world picked it up. Every sonar. Every underground listening array. The surface of Earth didn't shake, but the inside did. For 0.8 seconds, just under one heartbeat, planet Earth vibrated like a tuning fork struck by a cosmic hand. And when it stopped, Earth briefly displayed an energy signature identical to 3I Atlas. It was like a match key fitting a lock. A NASA Deep Systems analyst, exhausted and stunned, muttered a sentence that would go on to be redacted from every official transcript of that day. Earth isn't being scanned by it. Earth is pairing with it. If that was true, if the planet was syncing with this thing, then there was only one conclusion left. It wasn't finished. Something was still waiting. For 17 minutes, every recorded instrument in every observatory showed the same impossible reading space around Earth was no longer empty. We didn't detect objects. We detected structure, not metal, not matter, not anything we could touch, but something shaping space itself. Thin, invisible planes, patterns like folded glass, began forming around Earth in slow, rotating layers, like a shell assembling around the planet. Something was building. Someone shouted, It's a containment field. But someone else countered instantly. No, it's not closing in. It's aligning. And they were right. Whatever was forming around Earth wasn't trapping us. It was tuning us, matching our position, orbit, tilt, and even axial wobble with unnatural precision, correcting tiny deviations like an automated system coming online. Humanity panicked quietly. Governments hid the data. But the people already knew. Something was here. Something had always been here. And now it has started speaking, not in words. In memory, it began in Peru. A man named Raul Medina stood silently in a hospital hallway in Lima. EEG technicians recorded his brainwave stability after he claimed to have been near one of the activation sites. "I hear it inside," he kept saying, "like something is trying to show me pictures." Doctors thought he was hallucinating until the hospital's power cut out for exactly 24 seconds. When it returned, every monitor in the lab showed the same harmonic spike, an exact copy of the planetary pulse. Raul closed his eyes and began describing things no one had told him. The metal arches underground, the glowing patterns, the spinning geometry, all of it. "How do you know that?" one doctor whispered. Raul didn't answer for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled. "I don't think it's showing me something new," he said. "I think it's helping me remember something old." He wasn't the only one. All over the world, people began reporting brief episodes of what neurologists would later call synchronous recall, a sudden flood of images that weren't dreams, weren't hallucinations, but didn't feel like memories either. People who had never met, who didn't even speak the same language, described the same things. A tall, glowing arch under the ground, a black sphere hanging over a red sky, a spiral star map, a sound that felt like a voice without words. Fear spread. Not because of danger, but because every person who experienced synchronous recall said the same strange thing. They didn't feel afraid during it. They felt like they belonged to something. A team at CERN analyzed the harmonic resonance patterns again. Their conclusion was terrifying, not because it was threatening, but because it was logical. The pulse wasn't controlling human beings. It was unlocking something inside them. A long dormant frequency, a buried channel, a forgotten connection. 3i Atlas wasn't just syncing with Earth, it was syncing with us. Someone, somewhere, wanted us to wake up, but not everyone believed that was a good thing. A classified transmission leaked from inside a U.S. Defense Research Agency issued a different warning. Do not engage. This is not first contact. This is a recall signal. We are not the recipients. We are the asset. That changed everything. If this was a recall signal, who sent it? And worse, who is coming to collect? The recall theory spread in the dark corners of encrypted forums and leaked research threads. It didn't go public, but it didn't have to. Anyone following the signal knew something was wrong with the official silence. Too many observatories offline, too many system maintenance lies, too many governments pretending that nothing unusual was happening while every magnetometer on Earth throbbed like a second heartbeat. People started asking the question no one in power wanted to hear. What if humans didn't invent civilization? What if we rebooted it? Hidden inside old myths, old ruins, old star maps, there had always been fragments, too advanced, too misplaced, too old. Like history was broken, and someone tried to glue the pieces back together without letting us see the full picture. And now that picture was slowly returning. Archaeologists began comparing the resonance pattern from 3I Atlas to ancient cultural symbols, the tri-spiral from Newgrange, the Wayfinder star pattern from Micronesia, the flower of life geometry carved into the temple of Osiris in Abydos, the Mayan Hunab Ku symbol, even the yantra of ancient Vedic cosmology in India. They all matched the same geometry, a network, a cycle, a return path. These weren't decorations. They were instructions. Humanity had seen 3I Atlas before. We called it by different names. And every time, our memory of it faded. Not by accident, by design. Someone, something didn't want us to remember. Until now, 3I Atlas wasn't speaking in language. Language is small, weak, corruptible. It was speaking in resonance, something older than words. Something that can't be mistranslated or rewritten. Resonance goes straight to memory. And memory is more dangerous than any weapon because it changes who you are. That's why some people fear the signal wasn't communication. It was restoration. A NASA neurosignal specialist, Dr. Evelyn Rourke, was pulled into a classified program after her research suggested a disturbing possibility. 3I Atlas wasn't changing humanity. It was restoring a part of us that had been forcibly shut down. She found the proof while studying Raoul and others like him, people who had experienced synchronous recall. Their brainwave patterns showed a harmonic layer that no human should naturally produce. It wasn't random, it formed an encoded structure, a key, whatever this is, she said during a leaked internal briefing. We were built to hear it. Every human has a frequency threshold. This was beneath it, buried, hidden until activated. Like a locked door in the genetic code, waiting for the right tone. We didn't evolve to this, she said. We forgot this. And someone, something wants us to remember again. But the deeper they looked, the darker it got. There was a second layer in the signal, a layer behind the resonance, a layer not meant for us. A warning. Subharmonic pulses so faint they nearly vanished contained destructive interference waves. The kind that erases, not builds. These pulses didn't match the activation pattern. They opposed it. Something was trying to interfere with the signal. Someone was trying to stop the awakening. That meant only one thing. Whatever buried this network on Earth in the past never wanted it to be reactivated. The recall signal wasn't the threat. The thing that silenced it the first time was a hidden war had begun, and it didn't start in space. It started here, long before us. Humanity just never knew we were living in the leftovers. The subharmonic pulses, the ones trying to block the signal, were traced back to a location no one expected. Not deep in space, not from some alien craft. They were coming from Earth. Someone, somewhere, was transmitting a counter signal. trying to keep 3i Atlas from finishing what it started. A counter-resonance array was discovered buried under the ice of Greenland. Massive metal pillars arranged in a spiral pattern powered by a reactor type unknown to science. The array was active, transmitting low-frequency dampening fields into the planetary crust. Intentional sabotage. Someone didn't want the global resonance to complete. At first, people thought it was a military installation, something secret from a forgotten Cold War project. But once the ice was cleared, something was found beneath the metal array, something far older. Stone. Not just stone-shaped stone, carved in symbols identical to the other 12 resonance sites. Markers from whatever civilization built the network across the Earth had once used this place before someone else buried it, someone who later built a counter device over it to shut it down. This wasn't a new battle. This was an old one. Something tried to wake Earth before, and something else stopped it. But who? No government claimed responsibility for the Greenland array. Engineers from 5 nations analyzed the metal structure. It was human. But the build date of the deepest parts went back to the 1800s. And the deeper sections went beyond that. Construction layers revealed a shocking truth. This wasn't built by one nation or one era. This signal suppression array was expanded and modified for centuries, maybe even longer, passing from one hidden group to another, layer by layer. Someone had been keeping Earth offline on purpose. A secret history emerged. Symbols etched into the array components matched emblems found in ancient mystery schools, alchemical manuscripts, Templar vaults, and forbidden secret society archives. All fragments of the same hidden group throughout time. A single order that outlived empires. Their purpose became horrifyingly clear. They weren't worshipping anything. They weren't protecting anything. They were guarding a shutdown switch. Those 12 sites around Earth, they were never lost. They were sealed, and now someone had unsealed them. The Order wasn't trying to discover the truth. They already knew it. They were trying to prevent it from being remembered. But why would anyone stop a planetary awakening? Unless the one who sent the recall signal wasn't the one who built the network. A shiver moved through the teams studying the harmonic maps. 3i Atlas wasn't just a key. It might also be a warning beacon. And the thing it was warning us about, the thing that shut down the Earth's network before, might still be out there. Or worse, it might already be here. The night before the 11th harmonic surge, something strange happened across the world. The pulse stopped. For exactly 3 minutes and 42 seconds, every synchronized system from the Arctic magnetometers to the South African radio arrays went silent. No pulse, no hum, no resonance. The world felt wrong, like gravity had shifted sideways. Then, without warning, every single device, satellite, deep-sea cable, mountain observatory, and biomonitor spiked at once. Not in chaos, but in synchronicity, a single unified burst. The signal changed. It was no longer a repeating pattern. It was language. No one recognized it as language at first. It wasn't words, not sound. It was geometry, a sequence of expanding tri-spirals transmitted through magnetic flux. The first decoded form was simple, 3 curves branching outward. Then, 3 curves folding inward. Then 3 curves interlocking, 3 states, expansion, return, union. Dr. Evelyn Rourke whispered the translation. It's asking a question, but no one knew how to answer it. The tri-spiral transmission continued, repeating, evolving, refining, like it was waiting, not pushing, not controlling, waiting for a response. And then people started reacting. People who had experienced synchronous recall, the group unknowingly tuned by the signal, began to feel something new, a pull, a location forming inside their minds, like a compass pointing to a place they had never been but suddenly remembered. They all pointed to the same coordinates. 0 degrees latitude, 0 degrees longitude, Null Island, the intersection of the prime meridian and the equator, a place in the Gulf of Guinea where there is no island at all. Just endless water. At least, that's what we thought. Something was hidden there. NASA, ESA, and JAXA jointly launched a classified survey mission. No public announcements, no marine science cover story. They went dark, no transponders, no radio reports. But tracking civilians caught the activity anyway, a fleet moving to a point in the Atlantic that no one had ever cared about. The ship lowered deep-sea probes into unusually calm water. The ocean was unnaturally still. Then 1,500 meters down, sonar hit something solid, something massive, a perfect circle, a door. Buried under the sea, at the exact harmonic center of Earth, was a colossal metallic structure, smooth, flawless, untouched by corrosion. Symbols matching the other 12 sides formed a ring around its edge. But this wasn't a node. This was central command. And the pulse, the planetary heartbeat, was coming directly from whatever lay behind it. Back on land, global chatter exploded across encrypted boards. This is why Earth was shut down. This is why they sealed the nodes. This is what they were afraid of. The real message wasn't found in the geometry. It was revealed in the timing. 3-Eye Atlas was never the threat. It was the key to unlock what was hidden. And this whatever was behind that door was phase 3. If the underground nodes were activation, if the black sphere was connection, then whatever lay at Null Island was awakening. The fleet over Null Island held position above the hidden structure, but no one wanted to be the first to open it. The door wasn't stone or metal. It was something else, something that absorbed sonar like a black hole of sound. Then the pulse changed again. Not louder, closer. It was no longer coming from beneath the ocean. It was coming from inside people. The synchronized individuals, the ones affected by the recall resonance, collapsed all over the world at the exact same second. Their eyes opened, but they didn't speak. Their bodies trembled, not like seizures, but like antennas locking onto a signal. And then they started moving, not randomly, not in panic. They walked, all of them, everywhere, to the same location. Some walked for miles barefoot. Some drove until their cars died and then kept walking. Some boarded ships uninvited. Some stole boats from harbors. Every single one of them, thousands now, was being drawn to a single point, Null Island. No one stopped them because no one could. When people tried to restrain them, the synchronized simply stopped, waited, and the pulse forced those blocking them to step aside. It didn't control minds. It didn't threaten. It didn't harm. It just waited because this wasn't invasion. It was summoning. Dr. Evelyn Rourke watched it unfold in horror. Her research had shown what no one else wanted to accept. The recall signal wasn't external control, it was compatibility. The synchronized weren't possessed. They weren't brainwashed. They were chosen. Someone or something had built a lock in humanity. 3i Atlas had delivered the key. Now the lock was opening. And if a lock exists, what is it meant to keep out or keep in? The synchronized arrived by the hundreds, forming a silent ring around the sea as if they were guarding something sacred. They didn't speak, they didn't sleep, they didn't break formation. They faced the Atlantic with hollow eyes and waited. For what? The answer came from the deep. At 3:12 UTC, the water over Null Island opened. Not as waves break and churn. This parted, split down the center like something deeper than sea was rejecting the ocean itself. The research fleet scrambled back, engines screaming. But the synchronized didn't move. They stood like statues as a circular storm formed with no wind, a rising wall of spiraling water. Then the sea fell away entirely and the door was exposed. A perfect obsidian circle, 8 miles wide, glowing faintly with geometric rows of fractal symbols. The pulse stopped. The world stopped with it. No tide, no wind, no sound. A calm so deep it felt like the world had been unplugged. Then came the final signal, not through machines, not through the earth, not through the ocean, through the sky. 3i Atlas was no longer black. It ignited, not green, not white, gold. A blinding lattice of light unfolded from it, thin golden rings rotating in opposite directions around its surface like celestial machinery awakening after eons. The filaments connecting 3i Atlas to Earth rippled to life again, stronger than before, no longer hidden, now blazing like rivers in the night sky. The synchronized turned toward the light. Every hidden node on Earth activated at once. Mountains trembled in harmonic silence. Oceans split in symmetrical alignment. Lightning froze mid-strike. And then the impossible happened. Earth moved, not drift, not wobble. Alignment. Every instrument showed the same thing. Earth was no longer orbiting the sun freely. It had locked into a fixed gravitational link with 3i Atlas, like a magnet snapping into place, like a tool returning to its port. Dr. Rourke stared at the data and whispered. It wasn't just a signal, it was a signature. 3i Atlas wasn't discovering Earth, it was claiming it. And the door beneath the ocean began to open. The ocean didn't explode. It didn't roar. It didn't rage. It bent, silently, as if obeying something older than physics. The black obsidian door beneath the Atlantic split open not outward, not inward, but apart, like reality itself had seams. A golden light poured from the opening. But this wasn't light as we know it. It didn't reflect. It didn't scatter. It flowed like memory in liquid form, rising into the air in a slow spiral. The synchronized moved closer, standing at the very edge of the abyss, waiting, calm as stone. Dr. Evelyn Rourke watched from the command ship, her chest tight with a fear she couldn't explain. She wasn't afraid of dying, she was afraid of knowing. Because she finally understood this was never about space. This was never about a comet. This was never even about contact. This was about return. 3i Atlas descended, not falling, but lowering itself like a god being lowered on ancient ropes into a temple. The golden lattice spinning around it pulsed 3 times, and every synchronized human dropped to their knees at once, not worshipping but reacting, like something inside them had been triggered. The light from the opened gate beneath the sea stretched toward 3i Atlas, as if they were 2 halves of the same thing, separated by eons, finally reconnecting. That's when the voice arrived. No sound, no language, no mouth. Just a single thought that appeared inside every living human being at the same instant, whether they were asleep, awake, hiding, watching, denying, or screaming. It was 3 words. You were chosen. Panic hit the world like a second sunrise. Billions felt it not heard, felt like a memory rising from a dream you didn't know you had. Something inside humanity unlocked in that moment, something buried deep in our DNA like a hidden file. Some people cried, some collapsed, some stood outside and stared at the sky like they'd been waiting their whole lives for this moment without knowing why. And then something rose from the gate, slow, colossal, indescribable. It was a structure, but alive. A city, but not built. A vessel, but not made of matter. It rewrote shape and scale with every movement, folding into itself like shifting dimension. Inside it, faint silhouettes moved like things that were once physical but had transcended form. In that moment, humanity understood the truth. 3i Atlas didn't come from another star. It came back. It was one of ours. A remnant of an ancient human civilization, not lost but exiled after something tried to erase it. Something dark, something still hidden, something that might yet return. Atlas wasn't the name of a comet. Atlas was a designation, a guardian beacon, a carrier of memory, a signal home. The synchronized began to rise row after row as the golden vessel hovered above the Atlantic gate. The poles changed one last time, no longer 24 seconds, no longer a countdown, but a key. A doorway opened in the sky, and the voice returned not with words, but with meaning. The first world sleeps below. The second world wakes above. The third will decide the future. 3i Atlas hovered between Earth and the golden vessel as if waiting for us, for a choice, for a decision. A decision not just about exploration, but about who we are. Because maybe humanity didn't begin on Earth. Maybe Earth was given to us. And now the ones who left us here have come back to see what we have become. This story isn't over. It hasn't even begun.